Let's dive into the discussions shaping the nation.
I've been across County Mayo and indeed across the country in the last number of weeks, and I've seen at first hand, as many colleagues have, the very devastating and real effects of Storm Éowyn on communities and families right across the country. I want to assure people in every community, in rural and in urban areas, that we are working hard, doing all we can to get their power back up and running and their water and communications. Whilst Éowyn was unprecedented, it is now the precedent, and we have to prepare accordingly based on this precedent. On the day I was appointed as Minister for Social Protection, my first action as Minister was to activate the Humanitarian Assistance Scheme on Thursday the 23rd of January. This was done in advance of Éowyn's arrival to make sure there was certainty for people about the supports that would be available. Up to yesterday evening, the Community Welfare Service of the Department of Social Protection has issued 3,818 payments, totalling €7,227,792 to people without power and water following the storm. My department's community welfare officers have been visiting people affected by the storm. They're continuing to work closely with local coordination groups around the country. Community Welfare Service provided a full phone and email service, including over the bank holiday weekend, dealing with 523 calls on Saturday and Sunday and 242 emails. And we've relocated community welfare officers from across the country into the affected areas. I want to thank all of the staff in the Department of Social Protection who have been working incredibly hard on the Humanitarian Assistance Scheme. The Humanitarian Assistance Scheme is in a number of stages. Stage 1 is available to people who are currently impacted by the storm. Our focus is on those who continue to be without power, who will need immediate support while they're without that power or indeed water. Stage 1 funding issue to date has been to cover the ongoing cost of food, given that many people remain unable to either refrigerate or cook food without power. In addition, people have been supported with the cost of alternative accommodation. The level of support provided reflects reasonable rates based on local cost availability. The scheme has also supported the purchase of necessary items such as gas, heaters and torches. I want to thank deputies from many areas who have been in touch with me with cases and with clogs in the system. I thank them for bringing it to my attention. We continue to try and work through to ensure that we get those that are immediately impacted prioritised at this stage. Stage 2 and Stage 3 then will kick in once we have every power connected. Stage 2 generally involves the replacement of white goods, basic furniture items and other essential household items after a severe weather event. Stage 3 is to identify the longer-term financial support which will be required to make a person's accommodation habitable again in the aftermath of a severe weather event, which could include funding for work such as plastering, dry lining, relaying of floors, rewiring and painting. Stage 2 and 3 humanitarian supports are subject to income limits of €50,000 for a single person, €90,000 for a couple and €15,000 per dependent child. But I once again emphasise that Stage 1 is not subject to income limits. It should be noted that the scheme doesn't pay for damage that is covered by insurance policies, nor does it cover commercial, agricultural or business losses. A key focus for me as Minister for the Department of Community and Rural Development over the last period has been to work with colleagues in the NECG and local authorities to identify locations for emergency response hubs to get them set up so that people could access water, hot food, shower, charging facilities and clothes washing facilities. At the peak of the storm and response, over 380 hubs were in operation. That is now roughly 330. As part of the recovery effort, we are also working hard to source generators, particularly for our island and rural communities, to ensure that people stayed safe during the recovery phase. The provision of generators to support communities during extreme weather events is an issue I feel strongly about. There are lessons to be learned in terms of the shortage of generators, which we've seen over the last week. I've asked the Department of Community and Rural Development to engage with local authorities in relation to this crucial community resilience issue and to provide me with a number of proposals. A key concern was the effective collapse of many communication networks. Mobile phone, broadband connectivity, emergency services is a key resource for every community, especially rural communities. We need to ensure a more resilient network, and this is something that I and Minister Patrick O'Donovan plan to focus on over the coming weeks, working with mobile phone and broadband operators, and also with the Office of the Government Chief Information Office in relation to the functioning of the Disaster Relief Network, TETRA. This network facilitates the operation of emergency services and related communications. It is clear we need to ensure a more resilient system for vulnerable communities. I've met directly with communities across my own constituency in Mayo, but also in Connemara and on Inishmore to offer support and to thank those who responded to the needs of their neighbours, of their community, whether by opening community centres, helping to repair damage, and even just checking in on others. And I join with colleagues in thanking all of the workers in ESB, their international colleagues, in Uisce, Éowyn, in our local authorities and in our communication companies for their work. Chas mé díreach le phobal in Mayo, Connemara agus ar Inishmore an teachtain seo caite chun tionchar na somara eáil agus chun buíochas a gáil le hagratí phobal ar á bhaint acu leis an obair tharnamh iníon na sorma. Is léir go bhfuil obair allmhór tarnamh déanta ag go leor daoine le na náirtear agus le na hoisian ní stát agus ar nói na phobalíd féin. Maithíonn daoine atá ag marcadál sa cantar tuaithe seo locáileach in nia ócad í amsir mar seo. Is gá é sin a aithint. Is gá taú le fosíocht agus service a crinál sa cantar Gaeltachta seo, agus a cinnte go méid daoine anna go nó a dhéanamh in aineoin tro Hampshire. Is gá infrastructure tuaithe níos lóidear sa cantar seo ar Herbert sa tréise Mát Rón, agus bé mise chur béim mar sin le linn mar harmar mar na Gaeltachta. As Minister for Rural Community Development, I was proud to visit community spaces that are supported by my department under various schemes such as Community Centre Investment Fund, CLOR, Local Enhancement Fund and LEADER, and also through RSS, SICAP and Community Employment, who are assisting their neighbours and their colleagues across the country. Many of the emergency response hubs have received capital support but also public support. We will continue to invest in that scheme, but also to look at the lessons from the past number of weeks to make them more resilient. Government and its various agencies have been working tirelessly to support those affected by the storm, and we continue to do so. Teams are working around the clock to restore power and water. I want to ensure the House of both of my department's commitments to supporting those who continue to be impacted by the storm. The humanitarian assistance scheme remains open, and I remain available to discuss issues on that with deputies and senators. I reiterate my thanks to all involved in the response in emergency services, ESB, Irish Water, staff in the Department of Social Protection, local authority staff, and community staff and volunteers across the country who have stepped up. We have to learn from this and make improvements to recovery plans in the future to reflect the new precedent that was Storm Éowyn, and to ensure that those lessons that have been learned, the changes will be implemented, and that we are able to respond to something that we haven't had before, but which will probably now become a more regular event.
Like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.